Alright guys, so I've had a lot of people ask me today about this important notice for Belgian players right here. We've had some funny business recently with the concept of loot box in video games, and that has sort of leaked into this mobile kind of gacha game community or games that we're playing here. I do think there is a difference between like loot boxes in games like Overwatch or Star Wars Battlefront or something like that, because those are like big like AAA game releases that you pay $60. Like you're already paying money to get the game, and then like you're stuck in like the RNG loot box type formula, and like progress in the game, like for Star Wars Battlefront 2 for example, was like stymied very heavily, wanting you to purchase coins so you can get the loot boxes and stuff like that. So the Belgium Gambling Commission or Gaming Commission, they kind of did this whole thing, which basically led to a lot of these companies and stuff pulling back on loot boxes over in, I think, the majority of Europe. And now this has sort of, again, leaked over into Dokkan here. So let's take a look at what the in-game notice says, and then sort of like talk about all of this stuff here. So early this year, the Belgian Gaming Commission issued a report stating that certain forms of loot boxes will be considered as a form of gambling. Now, let me just say that I do, like, it is. Like, even like Dokkan. Dokkan is for sure gambling. Like, you can pay money or farm up currency to get a chance at getting a character, right? Like, it's gambling. Pure and simple. I don't think there's any sort of if, ands, or buts about it. Like, I know a lot of the issue where EA, they have their FIFA series, which is immensely popular and is like one of the worst cases of like loot box completely disintegrating the game, right? I know EA is fighting the Belgian Gaming Commission about this because they don't want to basically... I think what a lot of these companies don't want to do is they don't want to admit or say that it's gambling. That's what loot boxes are. Like, it's almost like it's a war on them having to admit that they are, basically putting this gambling shit in games that is like, geared towards younger audiences. So it is sort of a big issue with that. Now, while we do not share the views of the Belgian Gaming Commission on this point, we have decided to take steps to comply with their interpretation of Belgian gambling laws. So that's the very important part. So with this, like even like Bandai with Dokkan, they're not like admitting that the game is gambling. They say the Belgium, their interpretation. So they're not admitting fault right here. It's kind of like, because of this sort of, move that Belgium made, a lot of the companies are just sort of backing away because they're like, yeah, fuck it. We'd rather just not be involved in this whole thing. So that's what Bandai is doing with Dokkan. And shout outs to my homeboy, Mr. Eat Your Booty over here. He's a really cool cat, and he does live in Belgium. So here we go. This is what happens. It's in Naruto Blazing as well, because again, Blazing, is another Bandai game. Same thing where they're going to remove the option for Belgium players to be able to purchase pearls, and then of course stones in Global Dokkan. So here we go. Feature is unavailable in your territory. This is the Ninja Pearl shop for Naruto Blazing. And it's just like that, too, for Dokkan, where you go to the shop screen and you just cannot purchase anything anymore. So, like, Bandai kind of just wanted to avoid the whole issue here. Now, we'll see if this does sort of seep far and wide, like, with, like, different countries stepping in and, like, siding with Belgium in this. Now, I was reading, like, going through a bunch of sort of articles and stuff, like, talking about, like, FIFA, Overwatch, CSGO, basically talking about it being gambling. Like, there's a lot of very fascinating, like, articles and sort of takes on this whole thing. I did see that I believe EA is pushing back. I think EA did not actually take away the loot boxes and stuff from games like FIFA and stuff. They did a while back for Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I believe that's only because Disney pressured them and EA did not want to lose the license they had to make Star Wars games. I believe that's the thing. But for FIFA, I think EA is not actually taking the loot boxes out. So eventually this might end up in court. And like if EA would lose, which I would almost assuredly think so, because this is very clearly gambling. I feel as though we could possibly see more stuff like this happen in the future with Dokkan and other like gacha games and certain games like that. I think if like it was just like admitted by these companies though that like, yeah, you know, it can be gambling, or like I think they might have to get like a gambling license or something like that. Like I did try and do some research for this video, but there's a lot of stuff. Like this is a big messy situation. It does not surprise me at all that Bandai basically is going to be like, yeah, we're just not going to let Belgian players buy stones to sort of avoid the whole thing. But I believe France is joining with Belgium on this. I think I read that somewhere. I'd have to double check. I might like kind of leave some follow-up comments in the comment section here. But starting today, players in Belgium are no longer entitled and will be unable to purchase Dragon Stones, Summon Tickets, or any item pack that contains those items. Belgian players will still, however, be able to use the Summon feature using Dragon Stones that's earned through gameplay or is given out as part of in-game events. So, this leads to the new thing where now, like, I've already seen it on, like, the Dokkan subreddit. A lot of people on my Twitter mentions today kind of mentioning, like, you know, no longer is it, like, free-to-play, by the way, but it's like, oh, Belgian player, by the way. Like, because, you know, this is kind of a shame, because I'm sure there are quite a few Belgian players who, you know, they can afford to spend stones and stuff. They might really like Dragon Ball, and now they would no longer be able to summon, you know, here on their account, which is a shame. I'm looking forward to see like how this situation evolves, right? Because I want to see if this happens for any other countries and stuff. I feel like Japan, right? So let's just say Japan, for example. I don't think Japan would be heavily impacted by this because they already have like a monster huge market for all of these like mobile gacha games. Like they already have had like almost kind of like soft regulations and stuff. A lot of people have heard about this, you know, in regards to like when there's like an error on a banner, right? Like, you know, everyone knows the infamous Kefla 300 stone situation. There was another situation where Broly's TUR art was shown on SCR Rose Goku Black's banner rather than Super Saiyan 3 Broly's SSR art, which led to a whole issue where everyone's stones being refunded from that banner. And then if you guys think like Global does not usually get that sort of same compensation for these issues, because I don't like, it's not the gacha game like whole mentality and everything is a bit different for the global side of things. Now, again, I wouldn't be surprised if other countries would sort of step in and like get involved with this. I mean, we'll see how this works. I know for console games specifically, I really like the idea of loot boxes just getting the fuck out of there. Like, you know, in like, you know, Madden or, you know, I don't know, the Spider-Man game, Red Dead Redemption 2, like any type of, you know, game coming out on a console, that shit does not need loot boxes. There doesn't need to be little extra purchases and shit. It just doesn't need to be there. I do think games like Dokkan, Blazing, gacha games are a little different because they are free-to-play games anyway. It's a free-to-play, like, sort of system here where, you know, you don't have to pay anything to play the game, but, you know, if you want to get all the characters, something you can pay. Like, I do think it's a different situation comparing something like Dokkan or Naruto Blazing, of course, to, like, you know, Overwatch or FIFA. I do think in both cases it's gambling, but I think it's very, to me, it's a lot slimier on the console games, just because you have to buy the game anyway. Then it's, oh, hey, let me get hit over the head with all these loot box shit that I gotta buy. Whereas, jumping into a mobile game, like, you gotta understand what you're getting into at that point. Like, we know how mobile games get down with, the, free to play sort of. I'm losing my words here. Like the damn it, I can't. I was gonna use the term, but it completely left me. My bad. So we understand this will have an impact on the enjoyment of our players in Belgium. We feel we have no choice but to make these changes so that our fans can continue to play Dokkan Battle. Again, they don't want this to affect global as a whole, because this could turn into a very messy situation depending on how things play out. We apologize for the inconvenience. If there's any change in the situation or an update to the Belgian Gaming Commission's interpretation, we will let you know. Again, key word, interpretation. Bandai not wanting to admit that Dokkan is like gambling and all that shit. We hope you continue to enjoy playing Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. So, for Belgian players, what this means, of course, you guys cannot buy stones. I believe if you use a VPN, you can change, like, you could go buy through, like, a different country's store, right? Like, I've already seen people talking about this on, like, the subreddit and stuff of, like, someone who, like, I can't remember what country it was. It was, like, somewhere in Europe. And, like, he would use a VPN to buy stones through, like, the Indian, Google Play Store or whatever, so that he would get a slight discount. So, for Belgian players, if you use, like, a VPN, you're going to be able to buy stones still, but it's just you can't do it through, like, the official, like, Belgium, like, version of the game, right? So, it's going to be an issue for a while. I mean, as of right now, we're going to have to kind of wait and see if this will affect the game as a whole. I would say it is possible. It's very possible that, like, all this shit could pretty much get shut down. I do think a lot of things will probably be different for Japan, because they sort of have this culture over there already. But, like, there's not really any rules or regulation for, like, the United States or France or a lot of these countries. So if they decide to start putting it in, Dokkan and gacha games as a whole could become very, very different sooner or later. You never know, though. It could be a good thing. Maybe it would lead to the games actually being a little bit more, not as rough with the rates or something. Like, so we'll see. I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comment section about this whole, loot box sort of fiasco, this thing that has exploded. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of the game developers like EA got a little too greedy, and this is the result of that. Like, a lot of these game companies, they just wanted to keep pushing for more and more and more and more, and now there's pushback, and then there's going to be other, like, kind of casualties in the way. Dokkan looks like it is here, one of them. At least, players in Belgium not being able to purchase stones anymore. So, again, let me know what you guys think on the whole situation. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time.